Okay, we are on Daf Mem Amud Beis, 4 lines from the top of the Amud, where it says Tana Rabbanon. Tana Rabbanon, we learned Tana Braisa. This continues the halachas in connection to the fact that one may not bathe himself on Shabbos, wash himself on Shabbos, including with water that was heated from before Shabbos, as we learned before Yom Tov. So the Braisa says, Meschamem Adam keneged hamedura. A person could warm himself up in front of a fire. V'yoytze u'mishtatev b'tzaynan. Then he goes out and he washes himself off. He showers himself with cold water. Ubulvad, but he shouldn't do the opposite. Shelo yishtatev b'tzaynan. He shouldn't wash off with shower himself with cold water, and then v'yischamim keneged hamedura, and then go and heat himself, warm himself by the fire, because then he's heating the water that's on his body, and the gzeira of merchetz, that one should not wash himself with hot water, applies in that case. So in the first case, when the person's body is hot in advance, and then he washes himself off with cold water, the water that he's washing himself off with also may get a little bit heated from the heat of his body. But it doesn't get as hot as in the case where a person first washes himself off, and then when the person first washes himself off and then goes to the fire where he mamish heats up the water on his body. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in another brayse, Meichem Adam aluntis, a person may warm up a towel, umanicha al b'nei mayim b'Shabbos, then place it on his stomach on Shabbos to alleviate any stomach pains he has. What's the point of this? What's the chiddush that you're allowed to do this? So Tosfos says that the chiddush over here is that you would think that mishum refuah. We know that there's a takana, a gzeira of Chazal, which we're going to learn about in Mitzvah Shem Barichas later in the Masechta. Anything that's done for the purpose of refuah, to heal a person, there's a gzeira that Chazal did not allow it. Of course, we're speaking in a case where it's there's no sakana involved. So this as well, this is doing something, preparing it to heat and to alleviate pain, to place it on the stomach. This is allowed on Shabbos. But we can't do something else. Shalayavi kumkumus, do not bring a hot kettle of shalmayim chamen, of hot water, v'yanichenu al bnei mayim b'Shabbos, and place it on his stomach on Shabbos. Also, that the heat should alleviate any pain. Why shouldn't you do this on Shabbos? So there's a argument here between Rashi and Tosfos, and the reason for this. Rashi here says the reason is because it might spill, the hot water might spill on him, and he's going to end up washing himself with hot water on Shabbos, which is very interesting, Rashi's pshat, because the question that's asked on Rashi is, you have a hot kettle, even if the water spills on him, how much of his body is it going to wash? One limb, part of his body. The isser of a person washing his body, as we learned before Yom Tov, is if you wash your whole body. If you're washing one limb, like ponov, yodov, viraglov, your face, hands, or feet, it's allowed. So what's the pshat here? So the Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch brings the pshat that we're speaking about a kettle of hot water that was heated up on Shabbos. It was placed on the fire before Shabbos, but it was actually heated up on Shabbos. If it was heated up on Shabbos, then you're not allowed to wash yourself with that hot water, even if it's just one limb of your body. And that's what this Gemara is talking about according to Rashi. Tosfos says another pshat, that we're speaking over here about a person that has that towel on him, and in addition to the towel, he's also bringing this hot kettle, and we're afraid that it's going to spill on the towel, and he might come to this schita, squeezing out the towel of the hot water. Okay? Then a second pshat, Tosfos says, mishum refuah, that you're not allowed to do this because this is more distinctly something which a person is doing for the purpose of refuah, even more than just placing a hot towel. And anything done mishum refuah, as I mentioned before, there's a gzeira that it shouldn't be done on Shabbos. Then the Gemara adds, v'davazeh, and to take a hot kettle of water and place it on yourself, on your stomach, afilu b'choilas, or even during a weekday, is forbidden, mipnei sakana, because it's like sakana, you could burn yourself, it could spill and you could burn yourself, so you shouldn't do this either way. Tana Rabbanon, maybe adam kitay mayim, a person can bring a jug of water, umanichai keneged hamedura, and you place it in front of a fire. You don't place it by the fire in order for it to get totally heated, mamish hot, just to take away the cold of the water, that it shouldn't be as cold as it was, that you're allowed. So there are two pshatim in this Gemara. One pshat in this Gemara is that you're placing it close enough to the fire that it could get very hot, but you're placing it there for a short period of time just to take away the coldness of the water. Another pshat, though, in the Gemara is if you're placing it close enough that it could get hot enough, that's not allowed. What the Gemara here is saying is that it should only be done shetafik tzinas, and you have to place it in a certain distance from the fire, that the heat of the fire will take away the coldness of the water, but will not have the ability to heat it up. And that's the pshat that Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch, which applies today. If someone has anything that he wants to place facing the water, or in front of facing or in front of a flame of fire, you can't place it close enough that it will heat it up properly. But you could place it a little bit further, that just to take away the coldness of something that came out of the fridge or so on. Sagt der Breise weiter. Rabbi Yehuda says, Mevia isha pach shel shemen. A woman can bring a jug of oil, and she can place it in front of a flame of fire. Lo b'shvil sheyivashel, not in order to cook this oil, ela b'shvil sheyivshar, just in order to warm it up a little bit. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says, Isha sacha yada shemen. A woman could anoint her hands with oil, and then she could heat up her hands, keneged amadura, bring her hands close enough to the fire to heat up the oil on her hands. V'sacha levna cotton, and also anoint oil on the small child, ve'enach chisheshes, and it's not a problem to heat it up in that way. So the Gemara, now the Gemara will analyze Pshat in this Braisa, and the Gemara will bring two different interpretations how to learn the three-way machlokes we have it: the Tanna Kama, Rabbi Yehuda, and then Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Let's see. So the Gemara starts with trying to understand what's the Pshat in the Tanna Kama. The question was asked, Shemen mahu le Kama. What is the halacha regarding oil according to the Tanna Kama? What is his opinion? He didn't mention anything about oil. All he said is a person can bring a jug of water and place it in front of a fire when you're not mamish making it hot, but he didn't say anything about the oil. So what's his opinion? So the Gemara brings an argument. Rabbi and Rav Yosef Damri Tarvayu, Rabbi and Rav Yosef both say lehetera, that oil you're allowed to heat it up on Shabbos even if it gets very hot, because their opinion is that the Isser of Bishul does not apply to oil. Even when it gets hot, it doesn't really change the usage of the oil, and therefore you didn't really change anything here. So the Isser of Bishul does not apply to oil at all. That's the opinion of the Tanna Kama according to Rabbi and Rav Yosef. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, Rav Nachman by Yitzchak says, Li Yisura. The Tanna Kama holds, just like water you're not allowed to heat up, oil you're also not allowed to heat up. So the Gemara now explains, Rabbi and Rav Yosef Damri Tarvayu Laheteidem. Rabbi and Rav Yosef both say that with oil you're allowed to heat it up in front of the fire. Shemen, when it comes to oil, afal pishayat se ledes by, even if you bring it to a level of heat where if a person wants to stick his hands into it, he'll pull his hands out. That's what the word seledis means, that a person pulls his hand immediately out because it's too hot. That's the point of heat that is considered to be that you cooked it on Shabbos. But oil, even if you bring it to that point, mutter. It's mutter. Kasava Tanna Kama, shemen ein by mishum bishul. Oil is something that the Isser of Bishul does not apply to it. That's the first opinion. Then following the Tanna Kama comes Rabbi Yehuda and says, Shemen yeshbay mishum bishul. There is the bishul, the Isser of Bishul does apply to oil as well. However, bishul is if it comes to the point of yad siladis, that your hand would burn in it. But not hefsheda, not just warming it up, that is not the bishul of the oil. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. And then Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel goes a step further and he says, Shemen yeshbay mishum bishul. There is the Isser of Bishul applies to oil. And even just warming it up a bit, not even to the point of Yad Seledes boy, that is Bishul. That is considered to be the Bishul of the oil. And therefore, what does Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel say? You can't just put the oil in front of the fire even to warm it up. Only if you anoint it on your hands and then you place your hands in front of the fire, so you're doing it shaloi kedarka, you're not heating it up in the regular way, that's the only case that it would be allowed. So this is the pshat in the three-way machlokes in the Braisa according to Rabbi and Rav Yosef. Now, what's the pshat on this price according to Rav Nachman? Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Omar, le'isura. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak says, even the Tanakama says that oil would be forbidden to heat up on Shabbos. Shemen, afa pisheina yatze ledes boy osir. When it comes to oil, even if it's not heated up to the point that you would pull out your hand from it, it's still osir. So the Tanakama actually is more machmir than Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanakama says oil, just by heating it up, have sheini, by warming it, that is bishul. Then Rabbi Yehuda comes and adds and says, no, have sheini loizel b'shulai. Just warming it, that's not the bishul. Only if it's heated enough that it's yad seledes by, that would be the bishul. Also, Rab Shimon Gamliel lemeimar. Then, what is Rab Shimon Gamliel's opinion? Shemen yesh by mishum bishul. The isser of bishul does apply to oil. V'hav sheirei zeh bishulai. Just warming it, that is the bishul. So the Gemara immediately asks Rab Shimon Gamliel, Haina Tanakama. According to Rav Nachman Yitzchak's pshat, the Tanakama and Rab Shimon Gamliel are saying the same thing. Answers the Gemara, Ikke benayu kila achayad. The difference is the Tanakama holds because just warming it is the bishul, it may not allow to be done even after you anointed it on your hands to place your hands in front of the fire. Rab Shimon Gamliel is adding that once you anointed your hands with this oil, you're allowed to warm your hands in that way on Shabbos, and there's no isser for that, even no isser midrabanan either. So that's the two pshatim here in this machlekes. So the new thing that we learned over here is this concept of yad seiledes by, which is the shear of the level of heat when it comes to liquid on Shabbos, that if you place your hands in and you pull your hand right out because it's hot enough, that is the shear of bishul. So the Gemara now will focus on that, which is a very, very fundamental concept in Hilchas Bishul and Siman Shin Yud Ches and Shulchan Aruch. This is the shear of bishul, yad seiledes by, and it's relevant, of course, as the amount of heat that it has to be in order to reach the level of bishul to be chayiv, and it also will apply in a case where you want to return something to the fire. We spoke about chazara earlier on, when you took a pot off the fire and you want to return it to the fire. You could only return it to the fire if it still retains its original heat. What's the original heat? Yad seiledes by. But once it cools off less than yad seiledes by, so now you can't place it back on the fire because it's below that level and you're going to bring it back to that level of heat. So this is a shear always to remember when it comes to the malacha of bishul. Zok the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Echad shemen, whether it's oil, vechad mayim, whether it's water, yad seiledes by aser, if you heat it up to the point that it's yad seiledes by, then it's forbidden, and yad seiledes by, if it's just being warmed, but it's not to the point of yad seiledes by, then it's mutter. By now, what does yad seiledes by mean? So Rashi says, the Gemara's question is, there are different kinds of people. Some people can tolerate the heat more, some less. So how could you give the shear of a person that he pulls his hand out because it's too hot? What kind of shear is that? So Rachve said, the shear is kol shekreisa shaltinik nichvis. If you place this water on the belly of a child, of a baby that is, and it has very thin skin, and the water is hot enough to burn the skin, so that's the shear of yad seiledes by. Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi said the following: Pam achas nichnasti achar Rebbe lebeis hamerchatz. I once entered after Rebbe into a bathhouse on Shabbos. So Rashi here says, as we'll see soon in the Gemara, that we're not speaking about a regular bathhouse. You're not allowed to go into a bathhouse to bathe yourself on Shabbos. But what are we talking about? Chamei Tveria. Chamei Tveria, as we learned before, that's allowed. Ubekashti laniach loi pach shel shemen bambati. I wanted to place a jug of oil into the a closed jug of oil into the bath in order to heat it up. Okay, so it's like what's done today. People take a baby bottle and heat it up in hot water. So you wanted to place a jug of oil inside the bath to heat it up. Va'amali, and Rebbe told me, toil bekli sheini, take and put this into a kli sheini. Don't put this jug of oil directly into and heat it up in the bath. Heat it up in a kli sheini. V'ten. Toil bekli sheini v'ten. Take water from the bath, that is, and place it in another keli, kli sheini, and there you can heat up your oil. Okay, so this is one of the Gemaras. There's a Mishnah later as well, but this is one of the places where we have the source of the concept of kli sheini. The halacha always is, a kli rishon is mavashal. If you place anything into a kli rishon, it's hot enough, it has the power to be mavashal. And it's a problem. And that includes whether the kli rishon is on the fire, or even if the kli rishon was removed from the fire. As long as it's yatzei ledes boy, it's mavashal. When it comes to a kli sheini, the halacha is a kli sheini is not mavashal.
Which means
Though, when you pour it out from the original keli that was on the fire, you pour it out into a second keli. In this case, the Chamit Tveria is considered to be a Kli Rishon, even though what he did, he wasn't Toivel Mamish in the source of the Chamit Tveria. Chamit Tveria poured into a pool, but that pool is considered to be directly a Kli Rishon that was removed from the fire. It's not anymore in the source in the ground where the fire of the Chamit Tveria is, but it's the original waters that has the halacha of Kli Rishon. Then you pour it into another Keli, that's a Kli Sheni. And there you can heat up your oil. So the Gemara says, Shma mina tlas. From this incident, we learn 3 points. Shma mina shemi yesh bei mishum bishul. Number one, we had an argument before whether the Isser of bishul applies to oil. So here we see it does apply to oil. Shma mina, second halacha we learn that, klisheni enim avashal. In a klisheni, there is no bishul. V'shma mina hefsheira izao bishuloi. And the third thing we see over here is that just taking the oil and warming it, even not to the point of yatzei ledes boy, which is what he was going to do, which is what Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi was trying to do, that itself consists bishul by the oil, and therefore Rabbi told him, do not do it in a kli rishon, do it only in a kli sheni. Now Taisvis here, there's a very, very important Taisvis that's always quoted in halacha that explains what is exactly the definition that why are we distinguishing between a kli rishon and a kli sheni. And Taisvis says, because a kli rishon, the walls of the pot are hot. It was on the fire, and therefore, because it's very hot, so therefore, even after you take it off the fire, it retains its heat for a long time. Whereas when it comes to a kli sheni, the walls of the pot are not hot. It wasn't on the fire. So when you pour a hot liquid into it, the lashon of Tosfos is miskarer v'hoilech. Hoilech or miskarer. It very quickly becomes cold because of the walls of the pot or the whatever utensil it is that's cold. So therefore, there is the basic difference between Kli Rishon and Kli Sheni. But as we'll see later on, this rule that Kli Sheni is not mavashal is not necessarily always true. There are certain cases that Kli Sheni is mavashal. It's not so pashut. And there's going to be a Mishnah about this on Daf Mem Beis. We'll see more details when we get there. So the Gemara weiter. Now the Gemara questions a different detail here in the story. And that is that Rebbe was speaking to his student, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi, where? In the bathhouse. Frag the Gemara. Heichi Ovid Hachi. How was he teaching him? He was basically teaching him a halacha, essentially. He was telling him a halacha of Hilchos Shabbos, what he should do in the bathhouse. V'amar Rabba bar Barchana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, this is something we learned already in Brachos. B'chol mokem mutar laharer, in any place you can think words of Torah, chutz mi beis ha-merchatz or beis ha-kisei. Not in a bathhouse and not in a beis ha-kisei. Chi teime, if you'll argue and say, b'lashon chayil, amalei, he said to him this halacha that place it in a kli sheni and there it's allowed. He said that to him in a lashon chayil, not in lashon kodesh, just in a different secular language. But v'hamar Abaye said dvarim shel chayil, any mundane ideas that you speak, mutar lamrim b'lashon kodesh. You're allowed to say it in a bathhouse or in a beis hakisei, including if you're saying it in lashon kodesh. Shel kodesh, but if you're saying something which is holy words, a Torah and so on, asalayimrim b'lashon chayil, you may not say it in a bathroom, even if you're not saying it in Lashon Kodesh, even if it's in a different language. And for the Gemara, the reason here Rebbe taught him this halacha is because he was trying to separate him from doing an Isser. He was trying to separate him from doing the Isser of cooking on Shabbos. So therefore he told him the halacha to place it into a Kli Sheni. Teidad, Gemara brings a proof to this idea that it's allowed if you're separating from an Isser. There was a different incident. There was an incident of a student of Rab Meir. He followed him into a bathhouse on Shabbos, ubikish lahadiach karka, and he wanted to wash the floor. And he told him, Ein madichin, you're not allowed to wash the floor. Losuch le karka, he wanted to smear the karka with some oil. Amaloi ein sachin, you're not allowed. Alma afrisha meisura shani. Over there, he was teaching him this, what he shouldn't do, because he was trying to separate him from an Isser. So hachanami here as well, in the case of Rebbe, lafrisha meisura shani, separating him from an Isser, and therefore he taught him the halacha that he should place the oil into a kli sheni. Amar Ravina says, now another thing that you can see over here from the story of Rebbe, as we mentioned before, Rebbe went into Chamei Tveria to take a bath. Hamavashal b'Chamei Tveria b'Shabbos chayev. From here you see that if you cook in the hot waters of Chamei Tveria, which is only how is the Chamei Tveria heated? Chamei Tveria is heated from the sun. So still you'd be chayev on Shabbos. The Hamaisa the Rebbe, La'acha Gzeira Hava, the story of Rebbe entering into this Chamei Tveria to bathe himself was after the Gzeira that Chachamim made that you're not allowed to bathe yourself on Shabbos. V'amalei toil b'kli sheini, and Rebbe told him that you could only heat it up in a kli sheini. Okay, so if this was after the Gzeira, it must be that it wasn't Chamei Tveria. If it was before the Gzeira, so then maybe it wasn't a regular bathhouse. But since it was after the Gzeira, it must be it was in Chamei Tveria. And still, what does Rebbe tell him? You can't heat it up in Chamei Tveria. You have to place it in a kli sheini. So this is the proof that Ravina brings from here. Fragt the Gemara, Eini, is this so? V'omer Rav Chisda said, Hamavashal b'Chamei Tveria b'Shabbos. One that cooks in Chamei Tveria on Shabbos, he's potter. He's potter. This is not the regular way of cooking. He's cooking a Chamei Tveria which is heated from the sun, and therefore you potter. So how could Ravina say this? And for the Gemara, Mai chayiv nami de ka'amar. When Ravina said that from what Rebbe said, you can see that you would be chayiv, he didn't mean chayiv min ha-Torah. All he meant was makis mardis. You would be chayiv midrabanan, which the punishment for being over on any issa midrabanan is makis mardis. Okay, that concludes this story. Now the Gemara sort of branches off into a similar discussion, since we're talking about bathing in water. So now the Gemara discusses the concept of swimming on Shabbos in water. There's a Mishnah in Masechta Beya that tells us about the Gzeira that Chachamim made, that you're not allowed to go and swim in a lake on Shabbos. And what's the reason? Because you might come to make a tube, a life-saving tube, in a lake. So, therefore, there was a Gzeira not to go swimming on Shabbos. Omer Rav Zeira, Anoch Hazisei LeRabavo, I saw Rabavo the shot ba'ambati, that he was swimming in a bath. Was he really swimming? In other words, did he uproot his feet from the floor? Or he didn't uproot his feet from the floor, and he wasn't really swimming? So the Gemara questions this. Pshita, the loy akar. For sure he didn't uproot his feet from the floor. He was definitely standing on the floor, and he wasn't swimming. The Tanya, because we learned in a Braisa, lo yoshut adam bebreichem alei hamayim. A person may not swim in a pool, in a swimming pool filled with water. Even if you have a swimming pool that's in your backyard, you may not go swimming in it on Shabbos. So what was the suffix that Rab Zeira had about Rabavo, whether he was actually swimming on Shabbos? He certainly must have known of this Braisa that it's forbidden. So the Gemara answers, like Kashya, there's no question here. Ha, the less legidudi, ha, the is legidudi. There's a difference. There's a difference of a case where you have, like today's swimming pools, which is an in-ground swimming pool and it has walls. That's what gidudi means. Gidudi means that it's built with walls that go in-ground, unlike a lake. Unlike a lake where the water begins very, very shallow and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as you enter deeper into the lake. So what the Gemara is saying is, if it does not have gidudi, if it's not built like a in-ground swimming pool, rather, it's similar to a lake where it begins very shallow and then it gets deeper and deeper. So because it's similar to a lake, just like they made a gzeira regarding a lake, they made a gzeira regarding this swimming pool. Although in a swimming pool, the Chachamim weren't really chayshish that a person is going to have a life-saving, he's going to build a life-saving raft like in a big lake. But nevertheless, because it's similar to a lake, therefore they made this gzeira. But in a swimming pool that has walls and is not similar to a lake, they did not make this gzeira, and you're allowed to swim in it. This is the second pshat of Rashi here, and this is the pshat that the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch, and this is the halacha l'maaseh, that really on Shabbos you're allowed to swim in a pool on Shabbos. It's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Now, there's two issues though. Issue number one is, if you're going swimming on Shabbos, you can't wear a bathing suit, because that'll be another issue of schita. So if you're going to swim, it's without a bathing suit. Now the other issue is, I believe it does say that the minig is that we don't go swimming in a swimming pool on Shabbos. Believe. The Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring it, but I've seen this brought that it's a minhag not to go swimming even in cold water on a cold swimming pool on Shabbos. But according to what the Gemara says over here, and this is where the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch, in a cold swimming pool, the way our swimming pools are today, it should be allowed to go swimming on Shabbos. Okay, consult your local Rav before you do that. Sagt the Gemara weiter, another thing that Rab Zera said about what he saw by Rab Avo. Rab Avo, I saw by Rab Avo, shehiniach yodov keneged panav shel mata. He was covering himself with his hands, his private parts, for tznius, so he was covering himself. Not Rab Zera said, but I'm not sure, inoga iloi noga. Did he touch the limb of his private parts or not? Did he touch it or not? So the Gemara says, why did he even have such a doubt? Pshit, the loy naga, he most definitely did not touch it. The Tanya, since we learned in a Braise, Rabbi Eliezer says, Kala oiches ba'ama umashten. If you are touching the amma, the limb that a person uses to urinate, and you urinate that way, ki'ilu mevi mabul oilam. It's like you're bringing a mabul to the world. And the reason for this is, as Rashi here brings, because this could bring a person to have an emission, a seminal emission, a keri. And a person of being moitzi zera levatola, having an emission for no reason, is a very, very, very stringent thing. It's a very davachomer. And therefore, a person should do whatever he can to prevent that of happening, and therefore you may not touch oiches ba'ama or mashtin. It's like you're bringing a mabul oilam, that is. So if so, what was Rab Zera's doubt about Rab Avo? So Abaye said an interesting thing here. Asua ki beileshes. This is compared to a case of a beileshes. Beileshes is basically soldiers that come into a city and they're searching. They're searching for something. That's what the word beileshes means, that they come to search. We learned in a Mishnah, so soldiers that come and are searching in a city, b'shas shalom. If it's a time of peace, if you had open barrels of wine, asurais, it'll be forbidden to drink. Maybe they pour it for themselves. Stumais, but if they're closed barrels of wine, mutaris, that is permitted. B'shas mulchama. But if it's a time of mulchama and they are very, very frightened and distracted, and it's a mulchama, elu mutaris. So then, whether it's open barrels or whether it's closed barrels, it's permitted. They had no time to take from any of these barrels and pour from these barrels of wine. So what do we see from this Mishnah? Alma, kivin de beisi, if they are frightened and they're distracted, lemanaschi. So we assume that they did not pour from the water. So what's the comparison to our case? Hochanami, over here as well, what Rab Zera's doubt regarding Rab Avo was, kivin de bois le'asi lehirhure. Since he's frightened going into the water, so therefore even if he's touching the aver, usually you're not supposed to, but over here we're not afraid that he's going to come to have thoughts that can bring a zera levatola. So the Gemara explains, v'hacha might be a susa. What is he afraid of over here? Be a susa denara, because he's going to bathe in the river and he's afraid of drowning in the river. So therefore he had a suffix about this. Now the Gemara questions this whole idea of the fact that it says here that Rab Avo covered his private parts when he was going to bathe. Eini, is this so? A person that covers his private parts, and essentially he's covering his bris milah, it's as if he's denying in the bris of Avraham Avinu, because he's showing, it appears at least that he's embarrassed with the bris of Avraham Avinu, and therefore he's covering it. So we see that you're not supposed to cover it. And for the Gemara, loy kashya, it's not a question. Ha kinochis, ha kisalik. There's a difference if a person is going down to the river. So when he's facing the river, so over here there's no issue of tznius, he's not facing other people, he's facing the river. So over here he should not cover the bris milah. When he comes up, however, and he's coming out of the river and he's facing others, so over here, for tznius, he could cover it. Kiha de Rave, like it says regarding Rave, Shachi, Rave would bend over, and in order to cover himself, b'shas he went to bathe. Rab Zera, on the other hand, Rab Zera, Zakif. He would stand up, he wouldn't cover himself, he wouldn't bend down, he would stand up first straight, in order not to cover the bris. Rabbanan the Beis. So we see that there's two different Hanhagis over here. So Rabbanan the Beis Ravashi. Rabbanan the Beis Ravashi make the compromise over here. So what are you supposed to do? Ki kanachsi zakti. When they went into the river, when they went into bays, so they're not facing others, so then they would stand up to leave the bris uncovered. Ki kasalki, when they came out, shochi. Then they would bend over in order to cover themselves to be more tzniistic. So this ends this section of bathing that we discussed over here, Benegeya to the issue of tznius and the issue of not touching the aver in order not to bring hirur. So this is brought in Shulchan Aruch. The Alter Rebbe brings this as Sim Gimel in Shulchan Aruch, that when a person has to urinate, you should not touch the aver. And the Alter Rebbe there says, Mi ikir adin, if a person is married and his wife is with him, so then it's allowed, but still, toiv lahachmer. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. Let's go weiter. Sagt die Gemara, Rab Zeira have a komishtamet with Rab Yehuda. We had a similar story in the Gemara in Brachis. Rab Zeira wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. It's a famous thing about Rab Zeira that the Gemara says, the Yerushalmi says that he fasted 40 Tanesim or 100 Tanesim to forget what he learned in Bavel because he wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael and learn the Torah of Eretz Yisrael. But he was trying to avoid Rav Yehuda, the Boile Mesek Lada Yisrael. He wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. And at the Omer Rav Yehuda said, Kala Elam Bavel Eretz Yisrael, anybody that goes from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, Oive Be'esa. He's going to be Oive in a Esa. What is that Esa? Shenema Bavelo Yuvo V'Shama Yu. By the Churban it says they're going to be brought to Bavel, and that's where you should remain until Mashiach comes, until the Gola. So of course this doesn't literally mean a mitzvah saseh, but it means that in Yirmiyah it says that that's where you should be and that's where you remain, that's where the Torah is and you shouldn't leave. Omar, so now Rab Zeira said, Ezel ve'eshma minei milsa. Let me go and hear one more thing from Rabbi Yehuda. Ve'esi, and then I'll come and I'll go up, and then I'll go up to Eretz Yisrael. Azal, he went, Ashkechen, he found him. It's interesting because, like I mentioned, we had the same Gemara in Brachis. He said he wants to go hear one thing, and there in the Gemara, what it says, that one thing that he heard from him was beneged to coughing in the middle of davening or things like that. And that's what he had. Over here, the Gemara also says he wanted to hear just one thing, and there's this one thing that he heard. So it looks like he heard one thing, then he wanted to hear another one thing, apparently. Anyways, the Gemara says, where did he find him? He found Rabbi Yehuda the Koi Beibani. He was in the bathhouse. And he was telling his servant, Heviuli natter, bring me natter, which is used to scrub his head. Heviuli masrek, bring me a comb. And then he said, Pischu pumaychu, va'piku havlo, open your mouth and you'll breathe in the heat from the steam and you'll let heat out of your body. And then he also said, Ve'ishtu mimaya de bibani, and drink also hot water. When you're in the bath, drink hot water from the bath. It's not just enough to bathe yourself, but you'd also drink hot water. So that still here is what Rab Zeira heard from Rav Yehuda. So he said, if I haven't come just to hear this, daye, this is all enough. It was enough for me to hear just this. So the Gemara is going to go through the different details of what Rab Yehuda said. This, that he was happy, that he heard how Rabbi Yehuda said, bring me natter, bring me a comb. Kamash Malan, what he learned from this is, Dvarim Shulchel, as we mentioned already before, when you're saying Dvarim Shulchel, when you're speaking just mundane things, Mutalamrim B'Lashon Kodesh. You can say those things, you can speak them in the bath, even in Lashon Kodesh, as he said them in Lashon Kodesh. Then the next thing, Pischu Pamaychu Va'piku Havla. Open up your mouth and allow the steam of the Beis HaMerchatz to enter into your body and it'll take out the heat from your body. Nami, so this we also understand what he learned from this. Shmuel, like Shmuel said, Omar Shmuel, Havla Mapik Havla. If a person is hot, a person has a fever, I guess that is, so then if you breathe in the hot steam from the bath, so that removes the heat that shouldn't be in your body. Hello, how about the next thing that he said though? Ishtu maya de bei bani. Drink hot water from the bath. Mai mal yisa. What is the benefit of not only bathing yourself but also drinking hot water? The Tanya, we learned in Abraisa as follows. Oh, chavalei shasa, a person that eats and does not drink at all with it. Achilase dam, the food that he eats is blood. The food, it does not circulate well in his body. V'zeh tchilas chayli mayim. This is the beginning of a person getting stomach aches. If a person ate and he did not get up to walk at least 4 ames, the food that he eats rots in him. This brings bad breath. A person that has to use the bathroom, but he didn't, and he eats, he's compared to a oven that's being heated on the ashes that are there from before. This is the beginning of a person sweating a lot, which brings a reach zuma, a not pleasant smell. Rochatz b'chamen, now comes what the point that's relevant to what Rabbi Yehuda said. Rochatz b'chamen, a person washes himself in warm water, v'loy shasa mehen, and he did not drink also from the hot water as well. Doime, this is compared l'tana she'esiku mibachutz, to an oven that was heated up with a fire from the outside, v'loy yesiku b'fnim, but it wasn't heated up from the inside. So when you're heating up your body, you're taking a bath and you're washing yourself from the outside, you should also drink hot water as well. Rochatz b'chamen, if you washed yourself, if you bathed yourself in hot water, and you didn't shower yourself afterwards with cold water, it's similar to metal that was placed into the fire in order to form the metal and so on. But then you didn't cool it off afterwards in cold water to strengthen it. That's how you strengthen the metal. If you washed yourself and you didn't anoint yourself, it's like water that's on top of the barrel and doesn't enter inside the barrel. So you have to anoint yourself as well. So here, this is the detail that he learned from Rabbi Yehuda, that you have to drink hot water when you're taking a bath. Okay, we come back to Hilchos Shabbos. Zok the Mishnah Mulyer Hagorov. A mulyer is a kind of kettle that has a compartment for coals, and it has a compartment where you keep the hot water. As the Gemara will say, the compartment for coals are on the outside, and then the compartment of the hot water is on the inside, and that's how you heat it up that way. You heat up the hot water. So now this mulyer, hagorov, you shoveled out the coals. Shaisin heimenu b'Shabbos. You can drink from it on Shabbos. So in the simple pshat of the Mishnah, the way it seems Rashi learns, this is connected to what we learned in the first Mishnah of this Perek here, that you want to leave this hot water to be used on Shabbos. So just like we learned there regarding an oven, that you have to shovel out the hot coals, because otherwise you may come to stoke the coals on Shabbos. Over here as well, we're talking about shehiyah, this halacha of shehiyah, leaving the hot water for Shabbos, so you have to shovel out those hot coals. Antichi is a similar kind of vessel that has a space for water and a space for coals. The Gemara will explain exactly what's the difference from the mulya. Aval pisha grufa, even if you did shovel out the hot coals, ein shaisen ne'mena, you can't drink from it on Shabbos. And as the Gemara will explain. This is Rashi's pshat. There are many the pshatim and the rishonim here on this Mishnah. There's a very big discussion over here that Taisus brings up and others. I'll just say very bekitzer. Taisus over here says that the pshat in the Mishnah is completely different. He brings from Rabbeinu Pairas that the pshat here is you want to use this hot water to dilute wine or something else on Shabbos. So the question is, how hot is the water that you're using? The water of a mulyer is not so hot, so you can use that water to dilute wine. The water of an antichi is much hotter, so you shouldn't use it to dilute the wine. That's what this Mishnah is talking about. A completely different pshat in this Mishnah than Rashi. Okay, let's see now. The Gemara will explain the difference between the mulyar and the antichi. Heichi dami mulyar. What is this mulyar hagorov that you shoveled out the coals? Tana, we learned in a brayset, mayim mibifnim, the water is in the inner compartment, v'gechalim mibachutz. And then there's water on the outer compartment. That's the kind of vessel it is, or the kind of kettle it is. The coals. The coals are on the outside and the water is on the inside. Yeah. Antichi. What is this antichi? Rabbe Omar. Rabbe says beit kiri. It's a oven that has 2 compartments. There's a compartment for the coals and there's a compartment for where you place the hot water. Now Rashi here explains that the reason why the antichi is different than the mulyar is because the antichi has a thick wall between the compartment where the coals are and the compartment where the water is kept. And even after you remove the coals, the hot wall retains its heat very, very strongly, and it continues heating up the hot water. And therefore, you're being matman, you're placing it inside walls that are adding heat even after you remove the coals. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Bei Dudi, a two-tiered pot, which means the pot has the bottom compartment of the pot is where you place the coals. The top compartment of the pot is where you place the hot water. So over here as well, even after you remove the coals, it sort of remains insulated. That bottom tier, that bottom part, compartment of the pot remains insulated, and it still provides heat to the hot water that's there. Okay, so the Gemara explains, Mandama Beit Dudi, the one that says we're talking about a pot that has two compartments, and that's a problem even after you take out the coals. Koshkin Beit Kiri. Definitely two compartment ovens will be a problem because the walls of the oven, as I mentioned, are thick and retains the heat much more than this pot that has two compartments. But a Mandama Beit Kiri, one that says that the pshat of the Antichi is an oven that has two compartments where there's a thick wall, and that's the source of why it retains the heat. Aval Beit Dudi loy, but not a Beit Dudi. Beit Dudi does not have that thick wall; it doesn't retain the heat as much as a Beit Kiri. Tanya Kavasa de Rav Nachman, we learned like Rav Nachman's pshat regarding what the Antichi is. Antichi, so the Braisa says, what's an Antichi? Afa pisha grufa ktuma, even if you shoveled out or covered the coals, you can't drink from it on Shabbos. The copper bottom compartment of the pot remains, the heat there remains hot, and it heats up the water even after you remove the coals. So it says nechushta. Nechushta does not refer to the walls of an oven, like the opinion that said that it's a Beit Kiri, a two-compartment oven, which has a thick wall in between. But nechushta here refers to the copper pot that has two compartments, and the compartment on the bottom heats up the top compartment even after you took out the coals. Let's go a bit further here in the Mishnah. Hameicham, I have a kettle, shepinohu, a kettle that you cleared it. The Gemara will explain, there'll be two pshatim in the Gemara, what it means you cleared it. Do not place cold water in it in order to heat it up, in order to cook it. As we mentioned in the earlier Amud, what's heating it up to the point of Yatzeh Ledespai. You may place inside this kettle or inside another kais kedei lavshidan, just for the purpose in order to warm the water, but not to heat it to the point of Yatzeh Ledespai. So the Gemara will explain pshat in this Mishnah. My ka'omar. First of all, what's the meaning of the word pinohu? Cleared it. What's pshat cleared it from what? And also, there's two parts here in the Mishnah. It says, don't place cold water in it in order to heat it up. But then it says, you could place cold water lahafshidan. So let's understand the difference. So the first pshat in the Gemara is Ravada Bamasna's pshat. Hachi kama, this is the pshat of the Mishnah. Hameicham shepina mimenu mayim. You had a hot water kettle that was on the fire. You took it off the fire and you poured it out. You poured out all the hot water. Now the walls of this kettle is still very, very hot. You want to pour some cold water inside of it. Don't pour inside of this hot water kettle a little bit of cold water that it'll become hot enough. It'll mamish heat up to the point of Yatzeh Ledespai. But you could pour a lot of water into, a lot of cold water into it, because then it will not heat up to that point. It's just going to warm that water, not bring it to the point of Yatzeh Ledespai. That's allowed. So the Gemara asks on this pshat, but v'haloi mitzaref, there's an issue of mitzaref. What does mitzaref mean? You're strengthening the steel of this kettle. The way it works with it's possible that that's what happens here. The steel of this kettle, after it's heated up, so the way you strengthen the steel of a kettle is you heat it up, and then afterwards you pour cold water into it, and that cold water strengthens the steel of the kettle. And this is considered to be the malacha of makeh bepatish. You're doing the finishing touch of strengthening the steel of this kettle. So there's an issue if you take it off the fire and you empty the hot water and then you immediately pour in a lot of cold water into it, you're strengthening the steel of this kettle. So there's an issue of mitzaref. And for the Gemara, Rab Shimon, our Mishnah follows the opinion of Rab Shimon, which we had already many times before. The Omar Rab Shimon's opinion is Davar she'ei miskaven mutter. Anytime you do a malacha, but you have not intended to do that malacha, it's mutter. Given, let me just add, as Taisus here says, that it's not psik reisha. Given that it's not something that the malacha will definitely happen. So over here in this case, we're speaking about a case where pouring the cold water is not necessarily for sure going to be mitzarev, it's not for sure going to finish off and strengthen the steel of this kettle, and therefore he's not mechaven to do that, he just wants to warm the water, so therefore it's allowed. This is, who's pshat in the Gemara? In the Mishnah that is, Rav Ada bar Masna. Now the Gemara brings a second pshat. Maskefla, Baya asked on the first pshat, Midi meicham shapina mimenu mayim katani. Did it say in the Mishnah that we're talking about a kettle that he cleared it from the hot water that was inside? It's not what it says. Meichem shapinahu katani. A meichem, a kettle that he removed. The word pino just means that he removed this kettle from the fire. He didn't clear it, he didn't empty it from the hot water that's inside. So Abaye says a different shot. Hachikama, the pshat is as follows: Hameichem shepinahu. You have a hot kettle that's full of hot water, and you removed it from the fire. V'yesh by mayim chamet. The hot water is still there. Lo yitin l'toichem mayim mu'atin. Do not put a little bit of cold water inside. B'shvil sheyachumu. Now you're going to totally heat up that cold water. But you can add a lot of cold water into this kettle of hot water, because then it's not going to heat the cold water. On the contrary, it's going to cool off the hot water, and you're doing it for the purpose just to warm up the cold water, but it's not going to get totally heated up. Okay? However, a hot kettle, if you in fact did empty the hot water from it, then you shouldn't place any cold water in it at all. Why? Because you're strengthening the steel of this kettle. And that's forbidden. And we're following the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, the Omar Dover She'ein Miskaven Oser, that even though while he puts the cold water into the kettle, he's only doing it for the purpose to heat up the cold water. He's not doing it for the purpose to be mitzarev, to strengthen the kettle. But nevertheless, even if it happens and it's Ein Miskaven, it's Oser. So these are the two pshatim here in the Mishnah. Are we talking about a hot kettle of water that he emptied it from the hot water, or are we talking about a hot kettle that he just removed it from the fire? And the chiluk that comes out is whether we're following Rab Shimon's opinion or we're following Rab Yehuda's opinion regarding Davar she'ein miskaven. Okay, we'll end over here for today. Good Shabbos, everybody. And we're benching Shabbos Mevarchim Ir this week. Ni Hashem Reifecha. And we should only hear good news and Refuah and Yeshua for everybody that needs B'tayich Shar Chayli Yisrael.